Well, some reaction today on Monday. You get this a lot on the weekend, immediate reaction on Saturday, then Sunday with some stuff from people like me. And then Monday, after big games in the SEC, Paul Finebaum checks in. And this is what he had a really, strong take on Monday about what the Dogs did at Auburn. Here's what he said. He was talking about the Big Ten, actually. And they really haven't had a good season. But no one's yet had a season quite like Georgia. Iowa's had a good year so far, but I think that Georgia's has really trumped that. And here's what Paul said. And by the way, I know that Paul is sort of a person that clearly a lot of people listen to and watch, and a lot of people, particularly Georgia fans, could do without, I guess. But maybe that's not exclusive to Georgia fans. But he's been at around this game a long time. Georgia Auburn is an important game in the state of Alabama. It's probably the second most important behind the Iron Bowl. And this game has always been a good judgment of what the two teams have. I mean, they're both heavyweights in this league. And Paul today had some comments well, I'll let them speak for themselves. He says, let's give Georgia some credit too. They went down to Auburn and not even playing their best game, which is true. They completely shut Auburn down and won that game by 24. Just the thought of Georgia beating Auburn by that many points is scary to me. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think I made on here pretty clear that I felt like Georgia would win that game. 24. It's always hard to see a 3.5 touchdown win over one of your arch rivals on the road, but this was a thorough beating from Georgia, and I think there's a couple of things happening here at once, which is that folks are getting used to Georgia's way of winning, which is kind of suffocating. And they're also kind of processing the players that Georgia is using to do that. They're used to seeing Georgia's defense, which has been, Jordan and Devontae Wyatt, Adam Anderson, and Kobe Dean, these sort of higher level prospects for the NFL. What they're not used to is watching Stetson Bennett play the best game of his career at Georgia. I mean, clearly the best game of his career, throwing to SEC Freshman of the Week, Ladd McConkey, and using Brock Bowers. And, you've got guys who are not super heralded recruits, Justin Robinson, A.D. Mitchell. These are not star players in the world of college football. And you're just watching Georgia go through and systematically chop people up. There's not a lot of mistakes. Let me touch on this real quick. Stetson Bennett, people are saying, well, he's not getting better. That is not true, because I'll give you one thing here. Before the half, when Georgia punted the ball for Auburn to come down the field and they failed on that fourth down, Stetson nearly threw that ball while he was getting wrapped up by the Auburn player. He almost started playing Superman ball, which gets him in trouble, and he didn't that time. He took the sack. He thought about it, and he took the sack. And it's plays like that you are, maybe you'd get away with. You could also throw a pick six. Those are the type of plays now that are keeping Georgia in firm control and command of these games. There was no moment on Saturday where the crowd swung the momentum towards Auburn. I mean, the beginning of the game was certainly very important and big, but it wasn't like there was no just moment. Obviously no miracle play for Auburn, which they've had in the past there, and no atmosphere with a blowout like they had in 2017, what became a blowout. But, one thing Paul said was Georgia winning, let me make sure I get it right, but the thought of Georgia beating Auburn by that many points is scary to me. I do want to make sure we go over the record here, which is that I don't know if the context for him saying that is them beating this Auburn team that way. But, Georgia's really handled Auburn a lot lately in sort of decisive ways. 2020 in Athens, they win by 21. The game at Auburn in 19 was tight, no question about that. In 2018, they win by 17 in Athens. They win by 21 in Atlanta. They lose by whatever, they were 23, I think it was, in Auburn. That was the most decisive, 23. That was the most decisive game for Auburn. 2014, a lopsided Georgia win, 27-point win. They win by 38 in 2012. In 2011, just a total blowout, a 38-point win in Athens. More often than not, lately, Georgia has decisively beaten Auburn. They won by 22 in 2006, the most bizarre game that we've seen in a very long time in this rivalry. And then in 2007, a tight game that went to a blowout, a 25-point win by the Dogs in Athens over Auburn, the blackout game. So I appreciate what he's saying, like, but what I don't totally know the context of what he means by that, because I give him a little bit more credit than most of y'all do in terms of his understanding and knowledge of this game and sport, is, I think what he meant was just the way they manhandled Auburn. And it didn't start like that. But what does that mean moving forward in a day where I would say the bulk of the country in terms of college football is still thinking about Alabama losing on the last play of the game to a Texas A&M team where it's tough to play at Kyle Field. Like, everybody's focusing on Alabama's loss or failure. Well, and I'm always this way, and it's just having played sports forever in college and high school and all that. Nothing's happened different for Alabama. They can still win the league. They can still win the national championship. Nothing's changed. They're not Clemson. Clemson's done. Texas A&M is done. So nothing's really changed. It's just that Alabama lost. They didn't play well. The concern to me for Alabama is this is not the first time this season they've not played well. This is not the first time this season they have been beaten up on the lines. And if that's what's going to happen against the Gators and Texas A&M, both games on the road, what's going to happen when they got to deal with Georgia? That's going to be, I don't know, that's going to be hard for Alabama to deal with. And when you are throwing people aside, nobody's going to be thinking about 2017, 2018, and 2012. They're just not going to. It's not something that's going to bother them. But I think people are coming to a realization with this team at Georgia that maybe what Paul was trying to say too was they beat them by 24 without JT Daniels, without George Pickens, without Don Blaylock, without, Kiera's played, but with no Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint, no Jermaine Burton. It's just the reality is that this team, this Georgia team, could run the table. And I understand the comments are always going to be, you got to do. I don't play for the team. I don't have to worry about, being right. That's their problem. I can talk all I want to because that's my job, is to say they can run the table. And I realize they got to deal with ranked Kentucky and probably the ranked Gators. And, that November, now all of a sudden Tennessee looks like they're coming alive. That's just this league, it's what it is. In 2019, they had to beat Auburn on the road and then come back to play Texas A&M. This is just what it is in this league, and it just never stops. So with that said, this team is totally built for being better than they are right now. Like, that's the part I think people are missing here, is that this team can probably will be more productive. JT Daniels did not play in this game. Stetson Bennett is a Georgia hero, period. Y'all can leave your comments hating on Stetson or running him down or what. I don't get that. Maybe that's kind of stopped, but he is a legend now in a way that a lot of Georgia quarterbacks are not and have not been. How many guys have that many ranked wins? He's got 4 ranked wins in his career. He's been the starter for only like 8 games or something. So, with Stetson, he's not going to be your starter. JT's the starter. He's the better player. But, that's with Stetson. They're beating Auburn by 24. And even when I say that, it seems like it's putting him down. What it really should be is that there's a whole nother level that this team probably should be on here in the near future. That's just all there is to it. They're not healthy. Tate Ratledge is not out there playing guard. He's gone for the year. Jamari Sawyer was not out there for more than half the game. Chris Smith was not out there. People get hurt. But And as annoying as next man up is, nothing seems to bother these guys right now, you know? And Dan Jackson's out here blocking punts and leading the team in tackles the next week. Zamir White is playing so supercharged right now. He's so interested in what's happening right now. And you can tell that's why they're beating Auburn by 24, because Zamir White is on punt block and they're nearly blocking punts, you know, because they got Kendall Milton to come in and kill the game at the end of it. It's not surprising. And Paul doesn't say it's surprising. He says it's scary. And he's actually probably right. I mean, what the future is of this team, whether they win or lose, they're going to be in Atlanta probably. And if they're not in Atlanta, they're going to be in the playoff because they'd have one loss. What the future can be of this particular team is scary. It's just that they're different than the most recent teams we've seen. Alabama in 20 was one of the all-time great offenses. They were preceded as national champions by one of all-time great offenses in LSU, which was preceded by a 15-0 Clemson that most people think about Trevor Lawrence, but that was really kind of predicated on their defense and the league they played in, sure. But when they got to it, they really played well in the national championship game, which was the only game that was even halfway a challenge to them that year. So this team isn't like those teams. You know, it's a little bit like the Clemson team at 18 in that the defense is really good, but this is the best defense we've seen in a long time. And I think people are just only now starting to get their head around that this is a suffocating style of play. Whether you're talking about Georgia's offense or the defense, they are going to physically beat you. Yeah, they have playmakers on the outside, or they will. But that's the scary part that I think Paul, he's got his job. He's got to kind of get in and get out and stuff, but he can't just ramble on for 15 minutes like I can. But that's the thing for me. Was it scary? What was the reason it was scary? Why? That's what we're going to talk about over on Dog Post. We'll see you over on the website.